All right, it's 24 minutes past 8. I'm delighted to say James Tracy, former Leinster and Ireland hooker, is with us to talk to us about this game at the weekend. A team has been leaked to the papers, so we expect it to be the team because they've been very accurate recently with the teams. And when last you were in, you had Ronan Kelleher slightly ahead of Sheehan. They're both fit. Kelleher gets the nod. Is this are we to read anything into this, or is this just selection purely for the Italy game, do you think?
No, I wouldn't read anything into it. I think I said as well, it's definitely Dan's jersey at the minute, but it's just an opportunity because there's so little between them. I'd say it's an opportunity to give Ronan game time and a fair opportunity to see, who is going to be the number one going forward.
Obviously there should have been a red card for the challenge on Rob Herring, and he goes off with the HIA, and that's terrible, and there's massive fallout from that for loads of different reasons. But ancillary benefit was Kelleher ends up playing way more, I think, than they anticipated, and he was pretty good again.
Yeah, as I said, he's you got two Rolls Royces of hookers there, so it's a good time for Irish rugby, especially in the front row.
Is he fully fit coming back into that? Is he puffing after 10-15 minutes going, Jesus, I could have done with 15 minutes as opposed to 50 minutes here? Or is his conditioning, are they risking him if he's not ready for the 50 minutes? How does that work?
So I speak for myself in saying that it takes probably maybe 2 or 3 games to get match fit again. You can do all of the S&C stuff you want, but it's real minutes in battle that kind of get you battle hardened. Now he didn't look like he was too phased, but maybe on the inside he was dying a bit. It's just you can't replicate scrums into running and then rucks and getting off the ground and tackling and just
The other thing is, of course, that the ball is in play for longer and longer and longer as the rules change, and Ireland want to keep the ball in play longer and longer and longer. And so what he might have anticipated 2 or 3 seasons ago being a 38-minute game is suddenly a 48-minute game, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd be well used to that with Stuart. Luckily, that's kind of what we try to do is keep the ball moving and try use that to our advantage and be fit and play a good brand of rugby as well. I think it's another important side of things. One
of the questions we used to do Friday night racing with the top racehorse trainers was, how often do you get the horses to do the actual thing they're going to be doing? And they were like, almost never. You get them to a level of fitness and then you just let the last bit be there in the tank for them because you don't extend them to that level. Do you train for 48 minutes of ball in play so that when the game is in, or how close to that full level of physical exertion do you ever get that is not on match day?
So there'd be a lot of science and thought put into there'd be parameters of certain amount of high speed meters and meters covered, and
this is your
time
GPS
on feet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the parameters would be done off of your top speed. So say a percentage of that would be high speed meters, whether it would be I should think 70 or 60, I'm not sure, but they'd over time they would have built thresholds, and then at least then they can monitor your level of exposure in that week and then manage your load that way and time on feet. But there's actually different ways of doing it. Each province would have a certain amount of time on feet, and it could vary a decent bit, different coaching styles, different ways of training.
So it's not standardised across 4 provinces.
There is standardised, the majority of stuff is standardised,
but there's still
the time on feet might be different for training times. That might mean the meters might be similar enough, but the time on feet out there might be pretty vast.
How lucky are they to have had the fortnight off since the French game, because it did look like one of the toughest physical exertions that these players will almost ever have, and that the ball was in play so much, and just how obviously combative the whole French team was.
I think any kind of top maybe 6 sides, if you can get an extra week, an extra few days in, makes a huge difference. One, the emotional dump of getting yourself up for that huge game, and then it's the physical side of things. You're not right for 2 days really after a game like that, especially in the forwards anyway. Maybe some of the backs might be okay after a day and a half, but I know definitely front row. You're not well for 2 days. You're
not well.
Well, that's not right. But like, you're just not back.
Though.
You're not back normal or not flying or on all cylinders. And you just, as I said, you have to get yourself up emotionally to a level, and you're just exhausted.
What do you like on, say, the Sunday morning? Like, you know the way, like, like you and I, if we do exercise at our age now, after a spell of not doing anything, you wake up and you can barely get down the stairs.
Yeah.
What do you like as the peak of your profession coming out of a game like that on Sunday morning?
Yeah, just sore, tired. Yeah, I wouldn't sleep really after a game. Again, you're running on adrenaline for so long during it that you kind of, between just being bumped and bruised and coming off kind of that adrenaline high, that you wouldn't sleep that well. So you're just kind of waking up sore. There's kind of feeling of satisfaction though, of job well done if you've won the game, and then there's a hangover of kind of like the Sunday scaries when you're hungover. It's like that fear of like the review on the Monday morning if you've lost or you play badly. But I have to say, like, it's a very good feeling when you've won a really hard fought game, and you're a bit sore, but you kind of have that giddy feeling of getting back together on the Monday morning. But yeah, it's good and bad depending if you win or lose.
I had a question about the squads, right? So if you're in an Ireland squad at the moment and you get released back in the middle of it to play in the URC as it is now, what's your mindset for that? Is it like, screw you, I'm going to play the greatest game of my life this weekend? Or is it like, okay, this doesn't look good for me? How do you manage that?
Depends where you sit in the squad, really. I think if you feel aggrieved that you feel like you should be starting, then it's the latter what you said. But if you're kind of on the outskirts, and you're just to put it in holding the tackling bag for most of the week, you want to get back and play rugby again. So there's kind of two sides of the coin. But yeah, it would depend on circumstance, I'd say.
How would Joey Carbery feel last weekend?
Well, I'd say, in fairness to Joey, he's on the outside originally, so he's coming in to prove a point. That's where he's coming now. He's coming into camp to prove a point, and playing every time he plays for Munster now, he's proven a point. So I feel like that'd be his motivation. Don't obviously speak for him, but if you've any sort of setback, it ignites something in you. To be. He'd show how good you are and prove yourself again. Big week for him in training then, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. He's every rep is important, Yeah. And I think as a young player, you don't realise the importance of not making mistakes and having big moments in training. And I think like he'd know the importance of that through the experience he has, and knowing going into every session that you got to show up and you got to be good. It was a bit of a jolt, I think, when he ended up not being in the squad, but it's kind of what the squad needs as well, in a way. Like, it's bad for him on a personal level, but the rest of the squad is going, ooh, if I don't actually make every single rep count, then I could be him. So it's because it looked like we were just kind of in this everybody knows exactly, like, largely you've picked a team for us and we'll get to it in a second. It's not a million miles away from the team that the coaches seem to have given the journalists. So the expectation is we kind of know everything at this stage, but something like that is like, oh, he was kind of penciled in, we knew that he was always going to be there, and then he's not, and it's like, shit, this could happen to me. Yeah, and how good that you get a reinvigorated, not that he didn't have motivation, but you have him unbelievably hungry, and some people channel it in different ways. Some people they get pissed off and they use that as their energy, or they just want to show everyone how good they are. But like, look at Ross Byrne, he's been an unbelievable performer for Leinster for I don't know how long on the outside, and he just plugged away doing his job, and he's been phenomenal since he's gotten the opportunity. So let's look at the teams, right? So I think we have a graphic of your team. I'll read it out for our podcast listeners. You've got Porter, Kelleher and Bealham in your front row, with Henderson coming in at 4, James Ryan captain of the team at 5. It's Conan, Josh Reiner Fleer at 7, and you've got Doris at 8. I think it's going to be flipped around in the team that's been in the papers anyway. Casey and Byrne 9 and 10. That's what they're going for, it looks like. Your team has Lowe, Hansen and Keenan as the back 3, with McCluskey keeping his place and Ringrose
starting, and then on the bench you've got Sheehan and it's Treadwell/Baird. Looks like Baird might get the nod with O'Mahony on the bench. Murray, Crowley, importantly, is the number 10 backup, and you've got Bundy on the bench, but it looks like Bundy's going to start in the team that's been leaked. So you were pretty close.
Yeah, not too far off. I actually had Baird in 6, my original.
And
and Cohn in 8.
Right.
This is my first draft to write it down. I'm looking there, but I'm like, I'm missing someone. Potentially player of the tournament. Missing out on my team here. I didn't even have him on the bench. I just completely forgotten about him. I was like, so
this from your CD for any coaching interviews. Like, never happened.
Exactly, yeah. I was like, there's something missing. So anyway, I think Caelan will be
too much unseen work from Caelan Harris. He needs to be a bit flashier.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, I think he will be. I'll tip him now for player of the tournament. But I think both of them have kind of interchanged between 6 and 8 for Leinster before to kind of fit them into that back row. The reason I have him as 8 in my one was just that it's kind of like his jersey at the minute. It's making a material difference really. They're both good in the line out.
Does it change their role in any way?
Yeah, it does. In the line out,
right.
It would, and it would change the role off of defensive line out, off of scrum. It would just, there's just different kind of roles
and responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
And is it better that they're interchangeable, or is it better that they know I'm 6 today and I'm just going to do the 6 thing?
So it's actually for the back rows who can play across the back row, it's a bit of a disaster in game week because they have to learn 3 roles instead of learning 1. You know, hooker, yeah, you have a lot of responsibility. But you know, you got 1 role and that's all you can do really. Unless you're like Dan Sheehan, you probably put him on the wing. But the back rows, it's a disaster. Their notebooks are twice as big as everyone else's because they have to learn all the different line-out calls, all the different defensive calls from all the different positions, as well as the plays. So their week would be a little bit longer than everyone else. But on like from the interchangeable point of view, they do it all the time, so it wouldn't be a material difference. But I think the natural one is probably what's here because Caelan's probably played a bit more 6 than Jack. But as I said, I just kind of had it there because he's been so good. I just leave him at 8.
You've got Casey and Byrne at 9 and 10, and at one stage it looked like Casey was slightly ahead of Murray in the Munster pecking order, and then obviously Murray has had an incredible start to the tournament. So this isn't in any way a significant step down, and we kind of expected this. At the same time, it's too inexperienced at 9 and 10 away from home in the Six Nations, so it's a proper challenge for them.
Yeah, so and my reasoning for starting Casey, I would have Murray is definitely like hands down, you know, probably Jamison, then Murray, but Murray's been like phenomenal. But I'd have him as my number 2. But I just thought for this sort of game, I think, you know, whoever you have, Casey like deserves a run as starting this game, and then at least you have really good experience coming off the bench with Crowley. Like it's nice to pair up the experience with the guy who's had less exposure at that level, especially if they're from the same club. So I think that was kind of my reason for not having Murray starting with Byrne, because the obvious thing would be to get their partnership going. But I think 1, Casey deserves a go, and then 2, it probably makes sense having the Crowley kind of Murray off the bench.
We also kind of think of Ross Byrne as inexperienced somewhat, but he's not really. No,
I think like you look at, he's played in all of the big European games for Leinster. He's been pivotal in so many where we've been unfortunate to kind of lose Johnny early, or he's been injured, and like again it's seamless kind of step in. He's had huge kicks to win his games. He's very, very calm under pressure, and be sure he's going to do a good job.
How much of it is on him though then in the game, like as a quarterback, to make up his own mind, or how much of it is like stick to the system here, you know, stick to sort of what we're saying, and almost like don't make a fool of yourself, like, do you know what I mean? Like, or is he confident enough to say, no, I'm going to actually put my stamp on this?
Well, it'll all be kind of decided during the week. You know, what's going to be our game plan versus like the type of defence you're playing against. So each team will have a certain way of doing things, like not too dissimilar to football, where you have like a formation of how you set up. Some teams will have their backfield, you know, they might only have 1 in the backfield, which means, you know, as much as say you want to run the ball, maybe it's attacking kicks is the way you pin them back, have them second guessing, and that's how you punish them. Other teams, they might have two in the backfield, and you might be very hard at poaching the ball, so you got to play a different way against them, and other teams might not want to poach the ball at all. So it depends how they set up.
It'll be radically different to the France game.
Yeah, it will be. I think the fact that like Italy will close the wings, will close quite early, so I think there might be opportunities for crossfield kicks or kicks in behind there. But at the same time, I think the last time we played them in the Aviva, I remember watching. Now I don't know if this was what he was doing, but I think Joey showed the crossfield kick a lot of times and didn't, and they kind of, that winger then stepped out, and then we attacked that space in between outside 13. And again, that's completely my analysis on it. I don't know if that is exactly.
Well, you saw Finn Russell in the Welsh game, for example. Like, this is like as good a kicking maybe as you will see in terms of will Byrne like look to a lot of that, and where does you rank out of 10 in terms of that game?
Or taking
kicking.
Crossfield kick. I think you look at Jack in Connacht, Ross, Johnny. You'd probably be like the three best like crossfield kickers, I think, in Ireland anyway, and that's just like a repertoire in their game. And I just, for a winger, I could say it's a disaster. You're trying to put pressure on in getting their eye as a defensive winger, thinking don't throw the pass, and then they just dink it over as if it was a kick or pass itself on the money every time. So yeah, it's a great asset to have, especially with like different types of defences. You need to have those attributes to be able to punish them.
Can I ask you one last thing about Ryan Baird? It feels a little bit like Baird broke into the scene and was explosive, and then just had a little bit of a dip in form, but he's back now, and it feels like he's kind of the back row equivalent of Sheehan, where maybe he's a second row, or maybe that's where he's going to have all of his best rugby. Maybe he's second row equivalent, but it's just that I'm dying to see him in the team, just to see what he can bring. Is he the freak of nature that we keep being told he is? What's he like in training? What's that like?
I think athletically he's an absolute freak. Yeah, he's his spring and his counter movement jump, all those sorts of movements, he's just off the charts. But I think for the balance of the kind of back row and stuff like that, I think that definitely plays a part. That's probably kept him out, and experience, and he probably needs to get a bit of a break and then prove himself consistently at the top level. He's definitely all the talent in the world, so that's definitely not the issue.
What's the best position?
I think 6 could be a good fit for him. I think his line out, because 6 is important in the line out, unless 6 or 8, depending. If you've a good like jumper at 8, then 6 isn't as relevant, or vice versa. I think he could be a class 6, but at the same time, talk about the balance of the back row. If you're to pick your starting back row tomorrow, you're probably going to have O'Mahony 6 because of the leadership he brings. I think he's a good fit balance wise with the other two, and his line out is exceptional. He's probably the best line out forward, definitely that I've ever trained with him anyway. Through to him, just like off the charts good.
Right.
And his game understanding and experience and all that side of things. So I think it's hard to get rid of him. And then you've different versions of back rows. So, you've Darson 6 say this week, hypothetically, if that's true. Again, it's like, how do you take him out?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason. That's what's kind of holding him back.
It's a very intense level of competition. And the final thing is, we know the team. When we've known the team for all of the games, and the team has been pretty accurate in advance of the team being announced. This is a massive change in Irish rugby.
Yeah, I think they're playing unbelievably well. I think they've nothing to hide. This is their team. Off we go. And I'm not sure if they are leaking it, but it seems to be accurate, or the journalists are getting very good at guessing. But yeah, I think is
there liberation under this coaching team that wasn't there under Schmidt? That's what I'm looking from afar. Do they feel? Is it a happier camp? Is it a more liberated camp? I don't know.
It's definitely different coaching style. I think Joe's kind of like I touched on it before, is like the Moneyball style of, he was able to get down to the most minute bits of detail, and come up with almost like a script for the game, and it was unbelievable that if you literally follow that exact script, you were able to win. And it was almost scary how he was able to analyse other teams, and he knew their habits of holding and folding and how to do a move that would manipulate that certain person in certain areas of the field. It was crazy. I think this coaching ticket, it's a different style. I think it's more like Andy Farrell is an unbelievable he's an unbelievable speaker, and you know, you go to war for the man. Just he's great at galvanising people, and the minute detail is in there as well. But it's just a kind of a different way but this team is kind of grown in and taken a hold of it at the same time as well.
Yeah, it feels like it's the perfect marriage of time and the group and the coaching ticket, and it was the next evolutionary stage. Great to have you with us again, James. Thanks a million for that. That was brilliant.